let's bash on with part 5. I'm going to get through all this. I want to get through it within 10 parts at the most. So part 5, I'd come out. Oh, the lighting in this thing's shit. I'd come out in town. I was 18, my dad had died, I had my business. But I was being hedonistic, and I was spending money stupidly. I was confused. Dad had died. Me and Mum were bringing people back to the house for parties and all sorts. So it was time that I was thinking I needed to get out. Certainly, so I had to get out of the business. My partner Bob discovered that I was probably taking too much money. Not probably, I was taking a little bit too much money from the shop and the mail order company. I was going in there sometimes at night when drunk, helping myself, and I regret that. I had a big argument with Bob, one of many, and he'd recently at that point tried to kill himself. His wife had left him, and he tried to hang himself, I believe, and drink a bottle of vodka. So he was off for 2 or 3 months, suicidal, and trying to get his mental health back, which in the meantime I was just doing as I pleased, keeping the business going, but not very well. So I left before I was 19 years old, and I got a job at British Telecom, BT Internet, and they trained us for 3 weeks to, at the time, which was Windows 94. Yeah, Windows 98. It's that long ago. So this was the start of dial-up internet. So I worked at a call centre there for BT, and we were part of the first sort of recruits at BT. Long story short there as well, that job lasted about 9 months. I was fired for pulling a sickie one night and going out drunk into town. And of course it's a small town, somebody saw me, my boss found out, and I was fired. There you go, that was that. So I walked home and told Mum I was fired from BT, and she said, well, that's it, what are you going to do now, what are you going to do? And I spent about a month thinking, right, I've got to go, I've just got to get out of here. For some reason I had a credit card as well. As soon as I turned 18, everybody wanted to give me a credit card. It's crazy. It's probably still the same today. I don't know. When you turn 18, everybody wants all the banks write to you and they want your money. You know, madness. They don't care what kind of debt you get in. So I loved the job at BT. I was good at that, actually. It was customer service. You know, you had to take so many calls within whatever the hour, and yeah, very call center environment with the headset. It was good experience. Right, so I had to get out of town. So my first move, I went to Aberdeen and stayed with a friend, Tommy. At the time, I didn't like Aberdeen. I hated it. It gave me a bad vibe. So I went back home, and then a friend of mine from Thurso, Barry, he'd moved to Edinburgh and was living there with his girlfriend called Caroline. I spoke to Barry one night, and he said, come down, sort of stay on the couch until you get a job. And I think it was as simple as that. I don't know, Barry might remember it differently, but next thing you know, I'm on the bus. I'm going to Edinburgh, and I'm leaving home behind, you know, and it's a big move. On the bus, I'm just so anxious. But I've written here. What I had was quite a spiritual moment. On the bus, I was so anxious, but I had this voice clearly in my head saying everything's going to be okay. You're doing the right thing. Where you're going is okay. It's basically, it just calmed me down, and to this day I think whatever guardian angel, it sounded like my father sort of giving me a calming it's okay moment. And so halfway to Edinburgh, I felt calm, you know. So Barry and his girlfriend Caroline, they were wonderful. They let me stay there about 3 months, overdue 3 months, because I was on the couch. I wasn't giving them money. I was going out, discovering the gay scene. Everything was new, you know, and exciting. It really was a big deal. Edinburgh, you know. I got a job debt collecting part-time, a call centre job. I got a job with Leonard Cheshire Services, who house people with disabilities, physical and mental disabilities, physical and learning disabilities, should I say. And I was an admin assistant there. That job became full-time, so I was getting there, you know. I moved out of Barry and Caroline's, got a flat. In fact, one of the only times I asked Mum for money, she had to help me with the deposit, which she was really, I don't know, she wasn't very good with that. Pissed me off. There you go. I'm not having a go at my mum, I'm really not. I mean, she was doing what she could. So yeah, there I was, I had a great job, and then it was all about sex then. Everything in Edinburgh was about sex. All the men I could ever have. You know, as you get into the gay scene, it's not, the pub and club scene was all well and good, and you know, it's fun to a degree, but it's full of a lot of camp queens. I mean, you can meet the kind of man I was looking for, which was a more mature man. And then I discovered, you know, going cruising, going to toilets, cottaging, George Michael style, all the toilets around Edinburgh. And these were not filled with your average looking gay man, your stereotypical gay man. This was, you know, married men going in and having a wank with a man, or a blowjob, and then, you know, off they go. And that was what I got very much into, really. Again, like my nature, I suppose, addicted to that in many ways. There was a chap I was sort of seeing called John. I think he was John. There's so many Johns in the gay world, right? When you go out, and they'll be trying to figure you out at first who you are. And obviously, meeting older men, or meeting anyone who's married, or anyone who's got a partner, they're discreet, so they're John or they're Alan, until they maybe, you know, decide they want to see you again. Then they'll tell you a bit more. I was never like, I didn't give a fuck, you know. I'm like, I'm Keith, I'm this, I'm that, I'm just me, alright? I've got no secrets. That's the whole fucking reason I came out. I don't want to be living your pretend lifestyle, trying to pretend that, you know, you like women and having the kid and doing all the things that people do to hide when they have gay inclinations, you know. So I was in the Newtown Bar, which is a gay bar famous in Edinburgh for sort of having a good variation of age groups, a lot of older men, a lot of younger men. I'd left the bar. I was going out of the bar with this guy John, and I walked past this guy with a black suit and silver hair, and I went out of the bar and then realised I had to go back in and give this guy my number, which sounds terribly slutty and forthcoming, but which maybe it was. But this guy struck me big time, and he phoned me the next day. His name was Gary. Should I give his second name? I don't know. His name was Gary, and he was my first true love in Edinburgh. My first true love. It was love at first sight, really, in a lot of ways. He phoned me the next day, and we met. And I was in between houses, I believe. Yeah, I was. And he phoned me the next day. We met for a pint, and struck it off brilliant. We went to one of the gay saunas, which is the first time I'd been into a gay sauna in Edinburgh, and sexually the click was very much there. I adored him. So we fell in love really quick. He was a cocktail barman at the Caledonian Hotel in Edinburgh, which is a very, very posh hotel. So after my work, I would go and meet Gary. I would have a drink if he was working, I would drink and then go on, or wait for him to finish and then we would go out and hit the town. He was an amazing character. We had a love for movies as well. He got me into my knowledge of movies was pretty good, but he really got me sort of, you know, all the old, certainly the musicals was his big thing, and Hitchcock, and he had a photographic memory, and he was just a walking encyclopedia. He was incredible. Hitchcock and Doris Day, and he was just a fiery, energetic, non-stop man. You know, you never heard him complain. He was very much the opposite of me, really. Opposites attract. So we like going out dining, restaurants, and bear in mind I'm still young. You know, I'm in my early 20s, so I'm 21 about this time. And you know, this is where it got complicated with me. There was a lot of men around to explore, and I was hooked on the going out cruising and going to the toilets and all sorts of things. So my relationship with Gary was not monogamous, and I told him so, that I couldn't do that. Especially what happened, and this is one very nasty thing that happened that affects me, affected me at the time, completely fucked me up, was I was out in the club one night and I met this man with a kilt in the toilets called Tom, an American chap who was over visiting from New York. We hit it off, and I took him back to my flat and my room, and we spent 2 or 3 days together just before he was going. One night he took me back to the place he was staying. He was staying with these 2 very nasty queens, very, very stereotypical, mouthy, loud, outrageous queens who, when he took me back the first night, they were, this 2 queens he was staying with, they were just shouting and screaming at each other. I was in the bed with Tom, and one of the queens came into the bedroom and took a whole bunch of photographs of me and Tom just lying on the bed, not doing anything. We weren't having sex, we were just lying on the bed, and he took a whole bunch of photos. And at the time, didn't think twice about that at all. Tom was going away back to America, not the day after, but the day after that, so it was sort of photos that he could take with him. And as far as I was concerned, these photos he was given the film, and he went back to America. But that was a big split between me and Gary. That was a big thing. Gary also lived with another man at the time called Edmund, who had serious mental health problems. Edmund was like a lodger at Gary's place, but they, I think, used to have a thing together, but it just turned into Edmund's the lodger. Edmund's had schizophrenia, mild form. He used to hear voices, but he was off work. And, you know, most of the time it was Gary coming to my flat anyway, but more so as I got to know Gary, I was going to his and getting to know Edmund. I had, my first flat was on the shore of Leith, so I'd moved from Barry and Caroline's just over the Leith shore. I didn't go very far, and above this pub on the Leith shore, and it was a tiny little flat with a tiny window. I was living with this French girl and this gay guy who kept creeping up on me and trying to, he wasn't my type at all, and he kept trying to come on to me, which is all very flattering, but he was creepy. And whenever I brought Gary around, he would be listening outside the room, you know, to what we were up to. He was a bit creepy. But, you know, all in all, the initial thing was wonderful. Gary and I, we loved going out, loved jazz. It was very, very hedonistic, but I had the work, and it was initially very good. So the next part, I'm going to leave it there because we're over 10 minutes, will be how things changed really quite dramatically, very quickly, and my mental health really went down big time, and the whole living in Edinburgh became a pure nightmare.